Welcome to Impact Farming, where we introduce you to the people and ideas that will have a massive impact on your farming operation. Brought to you by Farm Marketer. Sit down, start the engine, and let's roll with today's show.
Hello everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Impact Farming Show. Today I am very excited to have Terry Betker back. Welcome. You are becoming a regular guest, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I love it.
I love it too.
Yeah.
Terry and I are going to be speaking about setting your farm business up for success. And this is one of the subjects I'm so passionate about. My two passions in life are farm business and the business culture altogether, agriculture and business. And where those two intersect, that is just what I love. So we are right in my sweet zone here. So let's dive in. Before we do that, can you tell our audience a little bit more about who you are, your connection to agriculture, and your company here?
Sure. Well, Terry Betker, and I'm part owner in Backswath Management. We're farm and agriculture management consultants. We work pretty much completely in agriculture and across most parts of Canada. And help farmers with planning, which is what we're going to talk about here today, but it could be as specific as finance, transition, human resources. There's a whole array of services that we provide to farm families.
Excellent. So I want to set the stage of what we're going to speak about with one of the quotes that I think we both really like. It is failing to plan / prepare is planning, preparing to fail by Benjamin Franklin.
Yes.
I think you like that one too.
I do like that one. And I use that quote quite often in presentations I make. Yeah.
And you know what? I think that is a great point where we can dive right in. Why do you feel that it's so important for farmers to do deliberate planning? I know everybody out there, we're farmers as well, and farmers work so long, right? And you go, okay, one more thing, why do I need to plan?
Yes.
I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
We do this. Why is it important to do deliberate planning?
Well, I think we need to understand what we mean by planning. So planning would be, or could be specific to any situation, any farm. But all farms can benefit from being more proactive, more formal in their approach to planning. So the benefit of it, I think, is that it causes it, depending on the process, the planning process that the farmer is using or the farm family is using, it causes them to take some introspection, to look at the business through a lens other than through the operational lens, through whether we're milking cows or growing grain or whatever the active part of the business is. It causes that inward look at what are we doing here. And I think it kind of boils down to, in general, if you have a business, you should run it like a business. And part and parcel with owning and managing a business is to be more formal in the approach to planning.
Okay, excellent. Can I share an idea I heard with you that I think goes perfectly with this topic?
Yeah.
Excellent. I heard the idea one time and it really just put the light bulb on for me. They say when you're a business owner, you should be working on your business.
Yes. Yeah.
And not in your business. And
Yeah.
I know when I've been building Farm Marketer, I've said this on different episodes, but when I heard that, I realized that it's so easy to get caught in the day-to-day activities of the farm, of the business, and then you forget to step away, take some time, quiet the mind, research, learn, and then work on the business. And at first, I kind of poo-pooed the idea because I know what I'm doing, I'm building my business. But when I started stopping, you slowed it down a little bit. And then you realize, hey, wait a minute, I'm missing out on this and this. So the reason I wanted to do this episode, because I know on our farm and on Farm Marketer, when I've been building this business, working on the business is a game changer. And that goes right into what we're talking about. Setting your farm up for success and planning, right?
Yes, yeah. You stated that very well.
Okay, good. I'm passionate about this.
Well, but it's exactly the situation. It makes sense to me, because if farms didn't love doing what they do, the working in the business, I get the in and the ons mixed up sometimes.
Yeah, I know, it's tricky.
If you didn't want to go to the barn, or you didn't want to get out into the field and stuff, then you'd be in the wrong business. So
absolutely,
that's challenge number one. Challenge number two is farms will take all of two things that any farm has: all your money and all your time.
Won't they?
Yeah. But where do you spend that time? And because there's so much going on in farms year round now.
Absolutely.
That you have to, like to your point, you have to kind of quiet the mind and step back and allocate some time to planning, because there's always operational stuff to do.
And it's just unbelievable until you stop, and then sometimes you realize things that you've been missing, or you're going a direction. When you really stop, you go, why am I doing that?
Yes.
And same thing might be, why are we doing the livestock end of our business? Yeah. None of us even like it anymore. Whatever the case is, I'm not saying that we love our livestock, but if you don't stop, you just get stuck in the status quo. And one thing I ended up doing, I always flip between farm marketer and our farm because I walk both lines. One of the things I ended up doing was leaving the office. I called it CEO Friday, and I would actually purposely leave the office, because what happens, even if I sat in my office, so same thing if you were at the farm, you get distracted. Something comes up.
Yeah.
One of your team members need you, and then you're back into the day-to-day. Yeah. So anyways, I'm passionate about that subject.
Yeah, it does work. If a farm is able to start to separate some of the work they do from the planning and focus on that, I can't quantify the benefit that will come from that, but through observations I have with working with farm families for quite some time, there is a benefit that accrues to that type of planning.
Yeah.
The one way to describe what you just said was, in part of planning, part of the strategy that comes with planning. I mean, strategies is just a fancy word for planning. Part of the benefit that comes from that is not only identifying what you're going to do, but identifying what maybe you shouldn't be doing or don't want to do anymore. And that's kind of an interesting way to look at planning. And without that, to your point, which you're correct from at least from my perspective, is if you don't take the time to do that, then you just continue doing the same thing. And if we want to get different results, so we do the same thing, then that's a little bit silly.
I think I have another quote for that one.
Yeah, I think so.
If you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you always got.
Yeah.
And then doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result, is a definition of insanity.
Yeah.
As you can tell, I like my quotes.
Yeah, but it's true, and it's how any farm family will apply those quotes to their business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll digress just a little bit here, because I like to share my experience and why I bring you guys on to bring these ideas to farms, because I know it works, and it's made duller decisions in my business. And you know what? This show, the Impact Farming Show, is actually a result of CEO Fridays.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I was always so busy doing what we always do in our business, I actually got out of the office, stopped, followed some great industry leaders, and said, what is next for content delivery in the agriculture industry? And I said, a video and podcast show. So a little bit of a left turn there, but I just like to share that these ideas have worked for me, and sometimes it's hard to quantify these ideas, but it's worked for me, and I know you do it all the time with farmers, right?
Yeah, it is hard, but it's worth it.
Yeah, I agree. So when we're talking about planning, we're talking about strategy, we're not going to be talking about business plans, like your big thick binder of business planning today, are we?
No. Please not.
Okay, I know. And that was one of the things I was going to say. Sometimes I think farmers go, oh my gosh, it's myself and my children, why do we need a big business plan?
Right, well, but there's a time for that. So some farms can benefit from formally developing a business plan, from formally developing a strategy. And then I guess we could say that the thickness of that plan should be relevant to what's going on in their business.
Sure.
And there might be a reason why that makes sense. But I think that I think that there are farmers out there that think, business plan. Do I need a business plan? And we talk about more of what they can benefit from is developing a management plan. And then that plan should include elements of a business plan. I mean, there are things or parts of managing a business that would be incorporated into a business plan. But in the management plan, the way we understand that, and I think it makes sense to farmers I talk to, is you only apply the pieces that are relevant to their farm at that time.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So make it as simple as it has to deal with it has to include what it needs to include, but don't make it more complex than it needs to be.
If you're a small operation, prime example, you don't have to do a big HR hiring plan, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. I know for farm marketer, prime example, anytime you do any lending, I had to go in with a big business plan with all parts covered.
Yeah.
Maybe I didn't have to be, but I did.
Mm-hmm.
But same thing, if you're a small operation, cover what needs to be covered. And I think that's probably a good time for us to hop right in. You have, correct me on my wording, but 3 pillars that go into what you consider the foundation of success.
Yes.
Is that right?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. And can I back up one step?
Absolutely.
Okay, just for 10 seconds.
Yes.
If we're putting a plan together, whatever that plan is going to look like for a farm, it should be written down.
Oh.
Yeah.
Not just in our heads?
No, it's got to get written down. And
on a napkin?
It could be. It could be a half page.
Okay.
But write it down.
Perfect.
And it'll make sense. Now to those foundations of success, it applies to all farms, I think, in all situations, and that is to keep 3 things in alignment. One is the future. What are we working towards? What's the vision? And you can define that any way that you want. It's the future, the vision, what our goals are. But what farms can benefit from is collectively within the business, within the family, is making sure that they're all on the same page, that they're all working towards the same purpose.
I love that.
Yeah, common purpose. What's the common interest? It doesn't matter how we language it.
Yeah.
But we need to make that, there needs to be an explicit, written down understanding of where do we want or need our farm to be 5 years from now, 3 years? That timeline is part of what they would include in that. Okay, so that's the first thing.
Vision.
Yeah.
Purpose.
What's the purpose? Okay, so the second one then is the alignment of the financial performance of the business.
Excellent.
So every business is where they're at is a function of decisions that were made in the past and events that happened in the past. Good, sometimes not so good, but farms as businesses, farm families in business are where they are. Okay, so that's the history. So our financial decisions and the financial performance has got us to where we're at. Now, what do we need that financial position or performance to look like going forward? That will give us the best chance of working towards our future.
Okay.
So once we define those 2 things, the third thing is then how do we manage towards it?
Excellent.
So those are the 3 foundations of success that we talk about.
Purpose, financial, performance, and management.
Yeah. And
Excellent.
and for farms, the finance is particularly important because typically margins are small, investments high, there's often financing involved. And so for some businesses not so much, but for farms I think aligning the financial performance with the vision is really important. Because if they're nicely aligned, that's good. Then we work towards it. But if they're not, and we need to understand that, so we either would work to make some adjustment to the vision or the future, or try to make some adjustment to the financial performance. And if they're misaligned and the families don't understand it, then kind of set up for, at the very least, hardship, disappointment, in the worst case, failure, conflict, and all the nasty things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you hear that too much, right?
Well, yes, yeah. And then, we've gone through a period of pretty strong cash flow, but it's a little different right now. So farms are being a little bit more, taking a little bit different look at their businesses right now, and I think that's a good thing.
I do too. Okay, I love those 3 points. Why don't we pick up at the top and dive into vision a little bit more? Why that's important. Some of us might go, what do you mean? We're farming, we've always farmed, we're always gonna farm. What's the point of having a vision? What does that mean?
It gives people structure, and vision is just the future. So by writing down what that vision is, or what the farms either want or need their vision to look like, or how they see that, it helps to get everybody on the same page. And when we're working through opportunities or challenges, the business benefits, the families benefit from having that collective understanding of why are we here? Why are we doing what we need to do? Now, this setting, writing down what a farm thinks, or the farm family thinks about their business in the future, can be tricky stuff, because it's not like creating a feed ration or a crop rotation. It can be a little bit abstract. But everybody can be emotional. The longest distance that a farm travels is from their head to their pen, or their hand to write it down. But it is absolutely benefits the farm to write that down. And it's kind of an interesting thing, because I know from experience in helping farm families crystallize that vision, and again, capture however you want to capture it. There's a textbook way to do it, Tracy, but however the farm family wants to write down how they define their future, once it's written down, then 2 years from now, or a year from now, or 5 years from now, we can go back to it. When we've just gone through some changes at Backswath, and it caused me to go back and look at the vision that I wrote down in 1991.
Ooh.
Kind of interesting.
Oh, that would be neat to look at.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And some things have kind of worked out, and some things we didn't quite understand at that time.
Okay.
But it gives you that perspective, yeah.
Yeah. It's funny when you look back at that. I like tangibles and examples. I learn a lot through examples. So when you say vision, and I talk to a lot of farmers, especially maybe where the several different generations of the farm family are working together. When I hear you talking about vision, it's as easy to me, correct me if I'm wrong, we are a farm family. Mm-hmm. Let's say we're a third generation. We want this farm to continue on. Mm-hmm. Our son and our daughter both want to take over the farm. So our vision is that in the future, they take over management of the farming operation. Is that a vision?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it can be. Yeah. The vision can be also as simple as 3 years from now, we want to replace the grain handling system.
Okay.
It's something that helps the family to understand what it is they're working towards.
I want to call it a goal too.
Can be
vision,
a goal, yeah.
Purpose, goal.
Yeah, goals work. Well, actually, technically, goals would become part of a well-developed or defined vision.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a textbook way to do it. But the way I talk to farm families, sometimes the textbook isn't what they need, or the textbook definition of vision isn't what they need. It's more of a tangible aspect of it. We're going to get this, and this done in the next 5 years.
That's a great idea.
It's simple.
Yep.
And I think most farmers can relate to that, because they can actually feel it and imagine that we'll have, a 50% larger farm.
Yeah.
Or we'll have diversified into a custom business 5 years from now. It gives them, it's more concrete than abstract.
And the funny thing is, it's all usually in our head anyways.
It is.
We all know where we're going. Mm-hmm. If good chance the neighbor's retiring, we probably have our eye on that piece of property for the future.
Yeah.
So that's part of our vision, right?
Yeah.
Expanding the farm operation.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned the multiple generations, because if the vision is fairly clearly articulated, then as children grow from age 6 to 12 to 16, they understand the vision. They grow up with that vision.
That's
and
neat.
it's never set in stone, because I think vision for a farm has to be fluid, because the environment in which they work is fluid. But the younger generation that comes along, they've identified their family farm with that vision.
I like it.
Yeah, no, it's cool.
This stuff is my jam. I like this stuff. Okay, so that would be vision.
Yeah.
And now we go into financial performance.
Yes.
You want to share on that one?
Well, sure I can, and it can be a very, well, no, it is, and it should be a very broad discussion. And when I talk about financial performance as one of those foundations, then the parts of financial performance include the basic record keeping, creation of financial statements, compliance, so tax returns, GST, agri-stability, reports for lenders. Financial performance includes investment and financing, budgeting. It includes all, it's the broad domain of finance.
Okay.
One more thing I'd like to say about that in the financial performance of the business, which I like talking about, is that it includes 4 quadrants. So there's the, well, we know it, meaning we understand what financial performance is.
Okay.
Then there's the do it part, so we know how to do some of this stuff in our business.
Okay.
Of those elements. Then there's the understand it, and the last one is the apply it. And once a farm family makes a commitment to maybe step up their game in terms of their financial performance, the goal should be at that application stage, because that closely correlates with the future. So we're going to take this financial information, understand it, and apply that information that will give us the best chance to work towards our future.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, so that is financial performance. Now, how the third pillar is the management. How does that connect in?
That's the management is the day-to-day. That's the enabler.
Okay.
It's the enabler. And so when we talk about management, one of we want just like we have there's a financial future and the farm future, the vision, right?
Yes.
So there should be, through this development or through this planning process, there should be an understanding of what does the management look like today? Like how all the businesses are being managed in some fashion. Will they be perfect? Heck no. I don't know of any farm yet that is perfectly managed.
No.
It's just not
Imperfectly, perfectly managed?
I love it. Yeah, I love it. What we encourage them to try to understand through this process, though, is what does the management need to look like 3 years from now or 5 years from now? So you don't want to have this vision and make a lot of investment, take the effort to start to work towards that future as they've defined it, and then come to understand that we haven't kept pace with our management. So that's why these foundations all articulate.
I love it.
The management requires, I think, clarity in who's doing what.
Okay.
In a lot of, there's the farm, I'd be pretty confident in this comment that farms will benefit from clarity around management. So we have duplications and overlap and gaps typically in what's not being managed. I think in this planning process when it comes to management, I think farm families should, through getting clarity on how the business is or how you would want it to be managed, is to avoid management by default, that somebody's doing something in a management function because nobody else was doing it. Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So,
Go ahead. Management's complex. It's hard. Yeah, we could have a whole podcast about management. It's complex because there's a lot goes on in a farm.
absolutely.
Yeah.
We could probably do a whole episode about each one of those. We could
Yeah.
do multiple episodes about each one of those, really.
Sure, we just
There's
come
a
back
lot.
tomorrow and we'll do another
Yeah,
one.
we'll do a marathon
Yeah, we would,
recording.
yeah, okay.
We love what we do.
Yeah.
So So I, again, love examples, and I like making it real and actionable. And sometimes, and you're very boots on the ground with this, and you work with farmers about this. I do this in my business, but here's an example, and correct me if I'm wrong. It's as simple as, let's say myself and Anthony, we have a kid or two children, that want to take over the family farm, okay?
Yeah.
Let's say they're graduating. So we do our farm operation. It's pretty straightforward. We go, why do we need to sit down and plan this? But here is something I run into a lot. And a lot of farmers aren't planning. And I think a simple activity like this would just be a game changer. So here's where I'm going. Mm-hmm. The children are graduating. They want to be involved in the farm. So we've set that down as our vision, pardon me. They are going to go off to university. They're going to do ag diploma, ag degree, whatever the case is, whatever they want to take. And then they're going to come back to the farming operation. That's what we've decided, okay? So that's our vision. 4 years out, or maybe a couple years after, they'll work. So probably in about the next 4, 6, somewhere in there, they're coming back to the farming operation. Mm-hmm. That's the vision. They're going to work with us because we're still fairly young. We're not ready to retire. They're going to work with us for a good number of years until we're ready to retire. It's going to be a slow transition, right?
Yep.
So that's the vision. Now, one of the things I see farm families do, they know that. But then the financial piece doesn't come in. Nobody plans for that. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, Susie and Bob are ready to come back from university, and they want to come to the farm and take a wage from the farm.
Yep.
From the day we decided they were coming back, did we grow our herd so that when they get back, we can afford to pay them?
Yep.
So I'm kind of creating a situation here, and correct me if this is the way you would process, but to me the vision is they're coming back. We're going to use our financial data, we're going to plan, we're going to grow our herd, they're going to retain heifers so that when they get out, they have their own herd started already. And then when they come back, they're going to take over part of the management, and then we're going to transition that slowly. Mm-hmm. Is that an example of what you're talking about here?
Is that perfect example? Then all we have to do is write it down.
Perfect.
Is to write it down. Let's say that you were able to write that down sometime this winter. Well, then next winter, or at some point, so either at next winter or when there's some circumstance that happens to reflect back on it, what's changed? And as you said that, I was thinking in my head, that's a great vision to start. And then as your children take year 1 and year 2, then maybe we start to become a little bit more specific about that vision. We're going to need these many more cows, or this other business, or what, and become more, because as the years tick by, and they tick by so darn fast.
Yes, they do.
Then we have a different understanding of where things are. We get a little more clarity of what that vision would look like.
Okay.
And then we just introduce that or integrate that into the plan. We tweak it a little bit. We make it more specific to the situation.
Okay. And the reason I bring that up is I know so many people that do an amazing job of planning, but there's also, like you said, time just ticks by quick. Yeah. And some, I think it's a bit of a human condition. Somehow we think in 6 years we're going to be more ready out there, but we haven't changed anything to get there. And when I heard you do a talk about it, you said if you want the future to look dramatically different, you got to start doing different stuff here today.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Because oftentimes a financial future is an outcome of decisions that are made today.
You have to. Let's start keeping heifers to grow the herd, or let's buy that piece of land, right?
So there's another situation. You've used an example where the farm business has the vision of transferring to their children, and that's common, right? But then there's a situation where you might already have a couple of brothers or a brother and a sister working together, and there might be some cousins that are going to farm. And oftentimes those cousins aren't going to enter the farm at the same time. They won't necessarily be at the right age, at the same age.
Okay.
And so then we set precedent. There's someone that's going to come into the farm first. So sometimes that vision or that future of the farm can become a little bit complex. And that's just more reason to understand what are we doing here and how are we going to do this? You went to it's very astute, and it's, if we were to take a look at the farms today and how they're financed or capitalized, and check what that might have looked like 10 years past, and then check what it might look 10 years future when your kids are coming to the farm, then that'll give us a little bit of context to how much money are we talking about here.
Yeah.
And sometimes it can be sizable.
Exactly. And you know what? And I've seen it happen time and time again. The kids show up and they go, okay, I'm ready.
Yep.
And I know, take it out of farming for a second, here in your business or my business. When I'm looking at hiring, that's a line item on my financials. There needs to be the top line revenue to pay that person. And it is a very deliberate hire. Yep. Nobody just shows up at my company and says, I'm coming to work for you, start paying for me, right?
With bi-weekly pay periods.
Yeah. So I find, I've seen this happen time and time again, and it's not a hard activity, but it's that going back to where we started with this episode, I think, working on your business and not in. We stop. We think and we go, oh geez, if the kids are coming back, my goodness, we need to grow this operation.
Yeah.
Or they may buy their cows when they get out, whatever the case is.
So there's another or to this too, though.
Okay.
And or may be the reality that there's not a place for everybody here. And then we need to understand that so we can communicate that.
You're very right.
Yeah.
Instead of false expectations,
exactly.
The kids get home. Sorry, I'm getting passionate because I know too many people that have done this. The kids get home expecting a role and nobody's planned, there's not a spot. That sure as heck throws them for a curveball, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's smart, Terry.
Yeah.
You're a smart man.
Yeah, no, I've just talked to a lot of very smart farmers.
You've done this a few times. Okay, that's excellent. I wanted to pick your brain a little bit on that because when I seen your framework, your foundation for success in those 3 points, that's the first and most common in my mind of people I know that I walked through.
Yeah. And just like I said at the start, or as we discussed at the start, Tracy, where we could have very detailed planning or very high-level planning, broad planning, then those same foundations, farmers can be very specific about what that means and how they would apply that foundation to their situation, or it can be very elementary, very more simple in its application. But those 3 things work.
And I love it.
Yeah.
You're right, because I think sometimes the harder we make it, the more we push it off, right?
Yes.
I know if I have something difficult, you know what?
Yeah.
It might just go to the bottom of the pile, and
Yeah.
then you focus on the ones that you like to do or that you can tick off a little bit easier.
Yeah.
So that's what I love about your foundation for success. It's easy.
Yeah.
Just write it down. It doesn't have to be a binder business plan at this point, right?
Yeah.
Just start.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It is. Yeah. Just start.
I love it.
Yeah.
And you touched on this a little bit, and we just kind of wrapped up with that, but you do recommend that it's written down.
Yes.
And maybe that we set some time aside, not working cows probably, when we're all angry, as they say, but set some time aside and just talk about this, and then write it down. Yeah.
Yeah.
Easy as that?
Well, it's as easy as that. I was trying to think of something wise to say, but I nothing comes to mind other than it will benefit immensely from writing it down. If we just stop and think about it, it's easy to speak something. It's hard to write it down. We write it down, it causes us to think a little bit differently about it. And then when it's written down, and we're somewhat accountable to it.
Yeah.
And it gives us a point of reference. If we don't write it down and we continue to talk about it, my experience, and we do it in our business here, we just talk about the same stuff over and over again. Now I gotta write it down.
I agree. There is power, like you said, with that pen on the paper.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's another one of those things you can't explain.
Yeah,
Once you see it, it's a little more real.
Yeah. And somebody in a family will agree to be the scribe.
Yeah.
I know I've never really had to do the scribing for a family. With somebody will do it.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. So I love everything that we've covered. I do believe as farmers, we are so busy. Farmers are so smart, but we really need to take the time and be deliberate and set our foundation for success. Especially with how unpredictable, unstable everything is in the world today, commodities, markets, you name it. I think it's so important that we plan our business, that we're deliberate. That's the one thing that we can control, right?
If a farm family listening to this decided that they're planning they wanted a pretty simple approach to it. Write down the future, however you define it, 3 bullet points, whatever. Doesn't have to be a lot. Gain some understanding of the financial strengths and weaknesses and where we need to be, ideally financially, and then capture something that was written down that defines how the business is getting managed. That's going to be great for 2 purposes. It's going to be great for the internal farm themselves as a family and a business. But then I take it to the lender and I say, this is what we're about. And I will guarantee, this is easy to make here because I got no stake in the game here, but I'd be very strongly of my opinion that if a farm family did that and took it to their lender, the lender is going to say, whoa, that is really cool. And that just benefits the farm.
Okay, those are some wise words. So Terry has kindly agreed to give our audience some valuable resources. So once this episode is posted, at the end of the episode, you guys can go into the show notes and you can download some great information that Terry's kindly provided to help give a little bit of a framework on setting your business up for success.
Yeah, I will. I can create something, or not create. We have a summary of those 3 key alignments, and then we also have 10 things or 10 requirements that farms could have or look to have in place for effective planning. I'm happy to share those.
Excellent. And I want to give you a little bit of a plug too, and other advisors that are out there. I know you travel across Canada, right? And you have partners out there. So farmers can do this on their own, but there are professionals out there. If you're a bigger farm, if you want some help, if you guys are really deliberate with this, there's professionals like Terry that do this for a living.
And we do, and thank you for that. And we also are serious about helping farms, and sometimes it just by sharing resources that doesn't necessarily have to end up in us sending them an invoice. I talk to lots of farmers. We talk to lots of farmers just as an aside, and call or email or something. Happy to do that too, Tracy.
Excellent. You know what, your passion, that's why I love working with you. I have a passion for helping farmers succeed, and I know you guys share that, and it shows through. So thank you for that.
Well, you're welcome. We try.
Excellent. I don't think we can end with any better words of wisdom. If people do want to connect with you, is your website the best place to go?
Sure. Website, cell phone, office. We're somebody at the office all the time. So, but through the website, they can connect us through the website, or the email. You know.
And it's backswathmanagement.com or .ca?
Just backswath.com.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
So if you guys want to connect with Terry, that's how you do it. Yeah. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Thank you so much, Terry.
Yeah, this was awesome. I love talking about this. This is it's common to all farms, and it's just great stuff. It's great. Thank you.
Do you want to go for another marathon here?
Yeah, we can. Yeah,
we
absolutely.
Probably could. If you guys enjoyed this episode, I would encourage you to like it, to share it, and to subscribe to the show so you can get more great content from amazing minds like Terry. Thanks so much, guys, and see you next time. Bye.
You've been listening to Impact Farming. For more great episodes and articles designed to help you manage and grow your farming operation, head on over to farmmarketer.com. Don't forget to sign up while you're there. We will see you on the next episode.